Ranking Member of the Subcommittee on Middle East and North Africa.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thanks to Undersecretary Sherman and Cohen for appearing today. We do appreciate your willingness to consult with Congress in the weeks leading up to the July 20th extension. We appreciate your being here as well. Mr. Smith referred to the cases of Hekmati, Abedini, and Levinson. Today marks 2,699 days that Bob Levinson has not been with his family. And I want to raise it because as the negotiations started and then an extension came, he remains still in captivity. I appreciate your efforts, Ambassador Sherman. I know you raise this issue every time, and I encourage you to continue doing so on behalf of my constituent, Bob Levinson, and his family. Now, at the outset of these negotiations, we heard a lot from our partners in the region about concerns about the P5+1 sitting down with Iran. And when the JPOA was announced, we heard again that our allies were unhappy that the interim deal may have blindsided them. And Secretary Sherman, I know that you spent a lot of time traveling throughout the region to try to allay those concerns. Now, this weekend, we heard similar complaints after Secretary Kerry met with Turkey and Qatar on a potential ceasefire in Gaza. And I understand the need to work with those who can exert leverage on Hamas. But to do it without including Israel, the PA, and other regional partners can give those partners reason for concern. Now, taken together, these two instances raise some concerns. And I want to put aside this weekend's back and forth about ceasefire offers and the details, but I'd like to focus on what my constituents reach out to me about, what they want, which is the same thing that our allies want, which is the same thing that Congress wants, and it's what the same thing the world expects. And that's clarity on these issues. In the case of Gaza, that means being clear unmistakably and without reservation why Israel has taken the action that it has taken. The footage of civilians that have been killed is horrific, and we mourn the loss of any innocent life. But we have to recognize the threat that Israel faces, why they're responding, why, if you believe in human rights, you must condemn Hamas's use of civilians as human shields, and why any ceasefire agreement must include the issue of tunnels, destruction of the tunnels, and the demilitarization of Gaza. And anything that detracts from that clarity, in word or in deed, in statement or in video, can invite questions. Clarity avoids those questions. Likewise, in these negotiations with Iran, the clarity that we're looking for is to remind people that this is not just about getting to a deal with Iran. It's a reminder that 7 times the United Nations said no enrichment for Iran. That when for years the IAEA and others have pointed to military dimensions of Iran's program, when Iran continues to be the largest sponsor of terrorism, including Iran's claims just this weekend that it's responsible for helping to build Hamas's rockets, that the United States remains committed to these core principles in negotiations, stopping Iran's nuclear program, because ultimately Iran with a nuclear weapon capability is the biggest threat to international security. It's not just about making a deal, as I said, and I commend you for all that you've said already to make that clear. It's about a historic opportunity and obligation that we have to stop Iran from acquiring nuclear weapons. Our national security interest is at stake. Everyone's just looking for clarity. The countries that raise concerns about the current crisis in Gaza are the same countries that are most concerned about Iran with a nuclear weapons capability: Israel, Egypt, Jordan, the Gulf states. And let me be clear, I'm not questioning the United States' commitment to stopping a nuclear-armed Iran. I'm not questioning the United States' commitment to Israel. As Ambassador Rice reminded the world yesterday, there is one thing that you never have to worry about. That's America's support for the State of Israel. But I'm simply raising perceptions that sometimes arise to ensure that perceptions never become reality. This hearing gives us the opportunity to provide the world with that clarity on the issue of Iran. Now, with all that said, I'd ask a question just about the military dimensions of the program. There are lots of issues that remain to be resolved, including what Iran did at Parchin. And the question is, will Iran have to come clean on its past activities in order for the P5+1 to reach a final agreement with Iran? And if not, how do we have a baseline to know how close Iran ever is to achieving that military capability?
Thank you very much, Congressman. Let me say with absolute clarity, what Ambassador Dermer, Israel's ambassador to the United States, said, and that is that he knows that there is no better friend to Israel than the United States, that any of the attacks that have been made in any of the newspapers on Secretary Kerry are completely, to use his words, unwarranted, and Ambassador Dermer said he was speaking on behalf of the Prime Minister of Israel. I and all of my colleagues and the President of the United States and Ambassador Rice are immensely proud of Secretary Kerry. He went to the Middle East and he went to the region because he believes wholeheartedly in the need to do everything he possibly can as Secretary of State on behalf of the President and the interests of our country to protect the security of Israel, to stop the rockets from raining down on Israel, to allow Israel to make sure that no tunnels can come into the State of Israel with terrorists and kidnappers and people who would do harm. And the Secretary obviously saw that there was civilian death that was happening all over the place, and there is not a person in this room who, as you said yourself, is not just heartbroken to watch children die, to watch people die in any country, anywhere in the world, in any territory, and anywhere in the world. But the Secretary of State's commitment to Israel's security, the President of the United States' commitment to Israel's security, my commitment to Israel's security could not be stronger. While I was in Vienna, I consulted on a regular basis with both the National Security Advisor and the Minister for Intelligence in Israel, and will continue to do so, as I also consult with Gulf partners, with partners in Europe, with Australians, with everyone throughout the world, but most particularly because we understand from Israel's perspective, Iran's actions are existential for them, and we do understand and appreciate that. Where the Iran negotiation is concerned, we have only one objective, and that is that Iran not obtain a nuclear weapon. The President of the United States got a Nobel Peace Prize because he believes that this world should not have nuclear weapons, and he was going to make that a commitment of his administration, and he has done that at every turn, which is why we are engaged in this negotiation as well. As he said, we may not see that in certainly my lifetime, perhaps yours, Congressman, but not in mine. But it is an effort that we all must make to keep our country secure. So I thank you for offering this moment of clarity. I don't think there should be any doubt whatsoever about it.
We go now to Mike McCall of Texas, Chairman of